So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone you're watching us. Welcome back to the second episode of SAP BTP webinar series. Now, the topic of today's webinar is SAP BTP Neo migration to multi-cloud environment. The experts are going to speak on the best practices, and our expert will answer some of the most significant queries, such as, let's say, if you're somebody who's starting with SAP BTP for first time. So why should you choose for SAP Cloud Foundry? Or if a company is using SAP Neo, so do they have choice to switch to SAP Cloud Foundry? And furthermore, they'll deep dive into the need to migrate integration from Neo tenant to a Cloud Foundry tenant, how the multi-cloud foundation differs from the Neo environment, business value in moving to Cloud Foundry, and also ensuring continuing success through agility and constant innovation with YASH migration strategy, of course. Now, to demystify this, we have on our panel two experienced gentlemen in this area, Mr. Sridhar, Vice President, SAP leader with 22 plus years of experience in SAP Technical and SAP Infra. Also joining Mr. Prasad, he's Director with 16 years plus experience in SAP Technology and Innovation. So without much ado, let's dive into today's session. Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed. We are actually conducting 5-episode webinar series. So in case you have missed the first episode, which was basically the BTP overview and the architecture, which was covered by, again, Mr. Sridhar and Prasad. So we have just dropped in the link in the chat box. I would request you to please join in and also refer to the first episode. I'm sure you wouldn't want to miss this entire webinar series, where our expert would definitely cover a lot of interesting areas in the SAP BTP world. Over to you, Mr. Sridhar.
Hey, thank you, Naveen. Once again, from my side also, welcome to the series of this, welcome to the second episode of the series. As Naveen was explaining, this being a 5-series webinar, I mean, that is the link where you can either register yourselves for attending the rest of the sessions, and also the finished webinar series, finished webinar sessions have been already uploaded. So please feel free to take your time to watch the earlier episodes. And once this is done, even this is also going to be uploaded at the link given below. So as far as today's agenda is concerned, I mean, I'm sure many of you who have joined this session today would have heard the SAP BTP Neo environment, multi-cloud environment, and so on clear. So today we will quickly cover, I mean, why the underlying Neo-based applications and any other custom migrations that you may have in your existing landscape to be migrated to multi-cloud. Even before that, we will quickly check, I mean, what SAP says, what SAP recommends around that in terms of what is Neo, what is multi-cloud. And then we will get on to the migration approaches. I mean, what all various scenarios out there, what all various applications can be migrated to the multi-cloud or the Cloud Foundry environment. And in such a case, I mean, what are the key considerations that to keep in mind, and then some of our experiences that we have had in migrating applications from Neo to multi-cloud and Cloud Foundry environments, and our experiences is something that we would like to share. And even before that in itself, we will actually kind of take you through, when you decide to migrate some of your applications from Neo to multi-cloud, what all criteria that you should consider and what all criteria that you should evaluate. We will quickly go through that. And I mean, how is it going to be useful for the organizations is something that we will also quickly go through. Why Neo to multi-cloud? I mean, these two names have not been new. I mean, these two have been running in circles for quite some time. For the people who have been in SAP and in touch with the SAP technological changes, I mean, they are aware that SAP initially has released SAP Neo platform, their own proprietary platform based on their own infrastructure a while ago. And however, I mean, with the principles of flexibility to integrate with other hyperscalers like AWS, Microsoft platform, GCP, Alibaba Cloud, IBM Cloud, and so on, SAP started expanding on the Neo experiences and started giving all the services that are available on Neo also to be available in multi-cloud environment. And multi-cloud being the or the Cloud Foundry being the industry standard, in general industry standard. Obviously, I mean, it is good to actually kind of, I mean, have the unified runtime strategy, unified environment strategy, as far as any organization is concerned. In that context, I mean, the multi-cloud environment plays a very important and key role. And what all various different environments that SAP has been offering, I mean, Kubernetes, Kaima, ABAP on cloud, and so on. All of these are definitely based on the Cloud Foundry environment, which my colleague Prasad will cover in depth and in detail in the upcoming slides. But before that, I'll quickly cover, I mean, a few key facts around the Neo and multi-cloud environments. While the Cloud Foundry based multi-cloud environments, I mean, that are actually offered by SAP, SAP does not have any set end of maintenance as far as Neo platform is concerned, Neo environment is concerned. That will continue to exist. That will also continue to coexist, I mean, with the other multi-cloud based environments that SAP has been offering. So there is no end of maintenance. And also, if any of the customers have already bought the Neo environment based services from SAP, those can be extended and also renewed. SAP has been doing it. I mean, some of our customers also have renewed their existing contracts, so that can still be done. And but I mean, definitely in the context of moving everything to a industry-wide standard, which is a Cloud Foundry based environments. I mean, in that context, if anybody would want to move their existing applications and any other developments that happen in the Neo environment, SAP also has been actually helping customers by providing something called migration packs that will help in accelerate the migration from Neo to multi-cloud. We will actually cover those details in detail in the upcoming slides. And because of the industry-wide standard, as far as, I mean, Cloud Foundry based multi-cloud environments that are offered by SAP is concerned, many of the upcoming services are only being offered in the multi-cloud environment and not really on Neo. If you look at on the right side a bit, I mean, what all various services that are offered on the multi-cloud environment, HANA Cloud, the actual database, SAP Integration Suite. I'm sure, I mean, some of you must have heard of BTP SAP Integration Suite, some of the BTP Extension Suite components, BAS, some of these machine learning AI workflow scenarios, services rather. All of these are being offered on the multi-cloud side of the world. SPA, I mean, actually there is SAP used to offer, I mean, IRPA, and then they combined IRPA and workflow, and now they started calling it as SAP Process Automation. And those kind of services are also already available on multi-cloud environment. And all of these basically are offered in the multi-cloud environment. Once again, the key takeaway from this slide is your investments in the Neo environment, if you have already made in any of these environments, are not lost. I mean, they're all there. You can continue to extend, and existing contracts can be renewed. However, it is good to actually move to the industry-wide standard, so to be in line with the overall unified runtime strategy that everybody is actually kind of following. At this point in time, I would actually request my colleague, I mean, Prasad, to take over and then cover the important and details that to in depth. Prasad, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sridhar. So hi all, good morning and good evening. So yeah, so Sridhar covered at a high level in terms of the key differences or key facts about Neo and CF aspect. So as you all know that Neo is a SAP proprietary environment as part of SAP Cloud Platform, which was initially offered in the year of 2017. But however, the Neo environment is still valid, and SAP is not going to sell or resell this particular environment. The reason behind is to gear up the all SAP services and introducing open source runtime platform within business technology. So SAP wanted to migrate services and also the applications and integrations or respect to artifacts from Neo to multi-cloud. So Neo is a monolithic application development environment where it is feature rich and also easy to use development environment. But however, the complex scenarios or bring your own language specific scenarios can't be covered in Neo. So that's where multi-cloud environment comes into picture, where multi-cloud supports multiple languages, and you can bring your own language strategy. So the multi-cloud supports the open source technologies, so which will leverage customers to have the micro service based development and the polyglot application development. So the polyglot in the sense like the same applications can be written in multiple languages, but the outcome is unique. So those kind of features are there with the multi-cloud. But here, if you see the diagram, this represents the domain model, where we would like to show the difference between Neo and as well as the Cloud Foundry. Here in Neo, you will be having the n number of sub accounts, and then you will manage the subscriptions and services along with the Neo compatible applications. But when it comes to Cloud Foundry, so you have different scenarios like cloud space, cloud org, and the runtime. So when it comes to cloud org, Cloud Foundry org, it is actually a development account that one or more collaborations can be initiated. So this generally the default state for the org is active, but account stewards or administrators can change the status to suspended as well. So these kind of scenarios are not there within Neo environment. And also SAP Cloud Foundry is organizing through spaces. So the spaces again provides users to access and to share the location where they can develop or deploy the main applications. So the Cloud Foundry org can include multiple spaces, and every application or services which are routed inside the space. So that's where the microservice based development is possible within Cloud Foundry. So the multi-cloud foundation, again, it comprises of 3 environments: Cloud Foundry, schema and ABAP, and also serverless runtime also there, which is also part of the multi-cloud foundation. But the major focus would be between Cloud Foundry, schema and ABAP. So we'll discuss more on these runtimes in the upcoming slide. Yeah. Right. So since we are this webinar is focusing highly on Neo to multi-cloud, we can say Cloud Foundry, which is part of multi-cloud foundation. So what are all the SAP proprietary things under Neo? Like SAP Neo is SAP Data Center or SAP Infrastructure Managed Runtime, so which is completely SAP's proprietary. So, and again, the approximate 25 services right now, it increased to 40 service almost, but after that they stopped since they moved to Cloud Foundry multi-cloud foundation. So no new services are getting offered from 2018 onwards. So, and again, the limitation is the fixed runtimes as part of the programming languages like the HTML5, that is, we can call it as UI5, and HANA XS, Java and JavaScript. So other than this, the open source support is not there. And the database, again, only 1.0 is the one, or SAP ASC. These are the 2 databases supported for Neo. So when it comes to, again, it will not support microservices and no Docker support and no BYOL support. So when it comes to multi-cloud, so that's where the open source capabilities and open source flexibilities you can find in multi-cloud. So this is a completely open standards based ecosystem. And again, this offers like almost 14 regions across the world, spanning across 4 hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, GCP and Alibaba Cloud. So multi-cloud is available for the customers, and almost 96 as on today services are there, which are available within the Cloud Foundry, including the migrated services from Neo to CF and some advanced services which are available only in the CF environment. And again, so from past, a couple of months, and SAP is highly investing on the AI services and automation services, and also they developed the ABAP environment, or we can call it as steampunk, extended steampunk. So all these new services which are available within the CFR multi-cloud environment only. So this is the major advantage for the customers to go with the latest digital transformation aspect using the Cloud Foundry. Okay, so and also it supports not only the enhancements of SAP. We don't need to consider ABAP only. We can also go with the Cloud SDKs, or we can also go with the Java SDKs, and the wrapper scenarios can be done using Node.js, or the Neo migration from XSJS applications to Node.js. So these are all the different languages and different IDs supported with the BTP multi-cloud, like IntelliJ, Visual Source Code, which are, again, we have BTP Business Application Studio, so which will give more flexibility for us to go with the BOL options. And databases aspect, again, it supports Postgre, MongoDB, Redis, and also it supports different data lakes through their data warehouse cloud specific scenarios. So all these are runs on multi-cloud environment only. So these are the, couple of key differences we try to highlight here, but there are majority of the differences are there, considering service by service and application by application as well. Yeah. So migration approach. See, basically, the migrations are two ways. One is SAP-led migrations, or partner-led migrations, or the vendor-led migrations. So generally, for example, when the SAP-led migrations comes into picture. So for example, Neo runs on HANA 1.0. So, but if customer partners are looking to migrate their BTP environments to multi-cloud, so multi-cloud runs on HANA 2. So definitely data migration is mandatory, as it needs to be done by the SAP only. So that's where we need to raise an instance to SAP to request the database migrations to multi-cloud environments. So there are a couple of scenarios like SAP-led services. For example, we have SAC. SAC runs on SAP data centers, that is Neo environment, that need to be migrated to multi-cloud. So those kind of services are, handled by SAP. So based on the assessment done by SAP on the environment, they will suggest on the service migration. But however, the migration customer-led, in the sense like the custom developments or integrations, or even the application level different aspects are there. So those are customer-led. So those are those can be categorized with the migration packs. So these are the packs where SAP is trying to give to customers to enhance their migration scenarios. And also SAP is keep on updating the migration packs. As of now, whatever the Neo services which are there within the document management service, or workflow management, or mobile services, cloud integration, or API management, these are all the services which are available in Neo. So that's where SAP came up with these packs, which are right now compared. But when I say what are the other migration packs which we can expect, in the sense, for example, I have done HANA-based development using in the Neo, like HANA Access. But I would like to migrate HANA Access to my multi-cloud environment, for example, to Cloud Foundry. So there again, the straightaway migration is not there, where you need to build from scratch and by using the Node.js, so wrappers, and again you need to use some third-party languages. But apart from that, SAP also giving a flexibility to go with Kima, Kubernetes-based runtime environment, where Kima is having a flexibility with a runtime called XSA. So it's an actually compatible environment for the applications based on HANA Access, where you can simply migrate your applications from Neo to Kima runtime environment. So this is again a separate a pack where SAP is trying to provide, where you no need to worry about new application. The 100% migration is possible with the Kima. So there are multiple artifacts which we need to consider while migrating. So that's where the HANA DB specific the analysis, and again DB table functions, all those things need to be migrated to HANA Access here. So that is HANA Kubernetes environment. So, but when it comes to artifacts to be migrated, so these are the highly available artifacts like UEFI applications, Java applications, even Java applications. If you would like to migrate to CF, so there are certain prerequisites and pre-checks need to be carried out. And HANA Access Classic also can be migrated to CF, but as I said, it's better to migrate to Kima. So mobile services, again, mobile services got more features and also some limitations compared to Neo. But yeah, so having BTP with the CF environment for the microservice development and sharing the microservices within the among the different artifacts is possible in the BTP CF, that is multi-cloud. So these are all the different artifacts. Even customer who used cloud portal sites, those can be migrated to SAP build work zone within BTP CF. So these are all the different artifacts can be migrated to the target environments. Okay, so that is multi-cloud environment. Okay. So when it comes to evaluation criteria, so yeah, so based on our experiences and best practices, so for a customer, if he want to migrate or if decided to migrate Neo to CF, so the first majority of the criteria, that is priorities. So there could be multiple applications which are running on Neo, but a customer has to identify which apps should move first. So that the criticality can be derived based on the priority of the applications, and then based on the criticalities, again once derived, so we will be identifying the dependencies, so which are unique within Neo or which are not available in CF, but still need to share the Neo service within the CF for till SAP releases the full-fledged version of the target solution. So these are all dependencies which we can consider, and then avoiding see the main difference between CF and Neo is like avoiding mixed Neo and multi-cloud in target solution. So that's where multi-cloud supports microservice-based scenarios. That's where the purity will be high compared to Neo. So, and then moving to business scenario to multi-cloud. So we need to understand what are all the scenarios touches the Neo services when it comes to planning migrating based on the priorities and criticalities to CF. That is, for example, I have a CPI and I have a portal and I have HANA and I have mobile. So which scenario we need to touch within the Neo service based on the dependencies we identified, and then subsequently we have to move forward with the planning. So, and again, so each of the service need to be analyzed before the migration happens, since as I told, like the developments, whatever we have developed in Neo comparatively, built on top of HANA or built on as a Java application or built as a cloud SDK extensions on Neo need to be migrated, but with similar approaches, with different approaches. So because the project or development structures are different for each and every application. So that's where the scenario covering the service within Neo and BTP, we need to analyze thoroughly, and then based on the resulting project plan, so we have to initiate and execute the migration project. So these are all the high level things which we need to follow when it comes to migrating Neo to CF. So these are the evaluation criteria. Yeah, so here we are trying to provide a simple approach when it comes to UEFI and HTML applications. So before I migrate any UEFI applications which was built on SAP Neo, so I need to first understand the current project structure of my application, and at the same time, the sub-accounts which need to be maintained in the CF, and then again, the respective configurations, entitlement, enablement, and then subsequently enabling the IDE services. All those things need to be done in the environment setup. So once the target is ready, then we have to define the migration plan as we discussed in the earlier slide, see the priorities and criticalities and the dependencies. Then when it comes to preparation, so we have to maintain the respective setup, that is the entitlements, launchpad setup, and dev space, destinations, which are connected to the backend. All these things need to be important, either import and export, or we may need to recreate. So those services. So definitely the security aspect, Neo and CF both are different. So those cannot be migrated. Only thing is we need to recreate the security aspects like OAuth clients and SAML enablement. So all these things need to be done. So, and then once we prepare, so we have to import the project from Neo environment to BTP, CF, and then subsequently we have to create a MTA project, and that can be build and deploy on top of CF, and then subsequently we can go with the live. So the consideration factors here, for example, I have a Java application, so this plan may not work because the Java application requires, in which scenario we might have used Java applications. For example, in Neo environment, the flexibility is there with respect to the SAP Cloud SDK. So where I may need to, I can use enhancing the application of SAP using Java SDK or Cloud SDK. So which is completely JTV based structure. So now when it comes to migrating, I cannot follow the same UEFI application strategy for Java as well. So because the app router, where generally we will be structuring the application through deploying the applications through manifest files, and also security framework like changing the web.xml and dependencies, additional files, and also you have project object model XML, POM we call. So we have to remove Neo specific properties, plugins, profiles, and then subsequently we have to add a CF specific plugins and security frameworks. So all those comes under like removing unnecessary files, which may result like unwanted behavior in CF as well. So that's where we have to be very careful when it comes to migrating the application, and the same application need to work seamlessly within CF. So the migration approach for Java applications, again, it is different. So that's where we are trying to cover only the high demand scenarios, like for example, UI5 applications and all. So the business application studio will be a tool we will use to migrate, and there we will be using Fury migration tools where you can migrate after importing from Neo, and then based on the fixes suggested by the studio, we can do the changes, or we can apply the changes, and subsequently we will ensure the project runs on the CF environment. Yeah. So this is again Neo to multi-cloud when it comes to integration strategy. So integrations is the one of the key aspect between the Neo to CF, because Neo supports cloud platform integration. We call it as CPI, and CF supports also CPI. But what exactly the difference between these two? So one is the security aspect got increased within the CF, and again CF uses the what specific support compared to Neo, the mapping aspect or microservice based scenarios are there. And again, it supports open connectors, which is inbuilt within the integration suite. So which is not there in Neo, where you need to separately subscribe the open connectors, and also the event mesh, advanced event mesh, and also MDI, so master data integration. So these are all the scenarios which are there within CF. But when it comes to migrating, so from Neo CPI PA to CF tenants, so there are tools provided by SAP for migration. So those can be done through Postman or cloud application programming models through Docker. So we can easily manage. See, we can download the iFlow, and then we can also import those iFlow designs into CF. But the point is, there are multiple scenarios where we need to be considered as part of manual intervention. So instead of that, SAP given migration tools will give more visibility for us in terms of the validating the current migration, and then subsequently how the migration can take place when it comes to the tools involvement. So user credentials and even what client credentials, and then subsequently custom iFlows need to be migrated, and those are also possible instead of going ahead with the manual aspect. But as far as the tools considered, SAP is still not providing flexible through tools for the custom iFlows. So where we need to migrate manually, but nothing difference. No scripts are going to be changed. Nothing is going to change. Only the target URLs and the endpoints are going to be changed. And at the same time, we have to be very clear in terms of maintaining the certain properties in the CF. For example, CF has two sets of IPs, ingress and egress. So we have to be very careful when it comes to using the right IP for whitelisting for inbound to CA, that is outbound to CA. So these are all very important to maintain the certain parameters within the CF. Sometimes we may face a couple of challenges in terms of cloud connector connectivity, that is tunnel connectivity. So tunnel IP needs to be whitelisted. So these are all the couple of challenges. Again, we have to, do everything before working on CI. So it's always recommended to check with the environment files through Postman collections, which were provided by SAP. And then subsequently, we have to take down around 3 to at least 4 hours to make the switch from the Neo to CF. So all these artifacts can be moved to keep them ready for the new URLs. And also there are multiple factors, but within this particular flow, we are trying to evaluate before going with the integration migration, like identifying the existing integration scenarios, security artifacts and all, and then planning, like what is the side-by-side migration strategy, in the sense like manually you have to upload an import aspect, and then using the migration scripts provided by SAP, and then subsequently setting up the environment within the multi-cloud, ensuring the ISPI and as well as the API specific services and instances being maintained. And then we have to do a test pilot scenarios, and then using the Postman collections, migration collections, we can do the migration with the help of SAP tools. And then manual activities also we need to carry. So once the deployment is done, we can go with the live. So this is not so much complex since SAP already given the collections, Postman collections through which we can do that. And also you can also do another approach through Docker. So SAP already provided certain Docker images where the pre-configured CAP model applications through CAP application models, we can push the integration iFlows from one environment to another, that is a Neo to CF. Yeah. So in overall, considering the neo to multi-cloud migrations, mobile services is the complex one, because see the mobile services introduced with through SAP Android platform, then migrated to on-premise mobile platform, and then migrated to mobile services in Neo, and then now it is mobile services in CF. So in overall journey from SAP, so there are certain things like legacy system migration objects like the MBOs, so the MOVs, those cannot be migrated in the CF mobile services. And even offline scenarios aspect also, we have a couple of challenges when it comes to unsynchronized models, offline aspect. So there are certain challenges are there compared to Neo, but mobile services is the one as part of CF is a backbone for the asset manager or cloud-based work manager. So all these things required mobile services with advanced features. So that's where Neo to multi-cloud migration for mobile services is also one of the key migration. Okay, so here we have to be very clear in terms of enabling the mobile services in the target environment as part of the environment setup. And then we have to define the migration plan based on the dependencies, because when it comes to mobiles, the backend development is also matters as part of the migration. So the backend could be SAP or non-SAP, for example, IBM Maximo or SAP. So these are all the backend scenarios where we also need to consider in terms of how the backend communication can happen through cloud connector setups, and then replicating mobile application configurations where we need to do manual thing. There is no specific migration tool provided by SAP when it comes to mobile services. So that's where compared to UI5 and integration suites, mobile services is a bit complex, since the cloud native, mobile native features are like for iOS, the approach is different, and even for Android the approach is different. You have to be very much careful in terms of MDK and the respect to SDK configuration and subsequent migrations. So the replication of the mobile application configuration we have to do, and also while doing, we have to enable the detailed event log, so through which you can understand where the migration is failing, and subsequently you can verify the logs, and then you can fix the issues. So some of the things like you need to migrate users manually, and then configuration has to be done manually, and again backends. That's what I said. Like backends also need to be in sync when it comes to migration. Before migration, we have to be very clear about the backend applications and their behaving. Like after migration, how the application is behaving. If any connectivity lost, so the application may not work. So that's where the application should be in synchronized status before reconfiguration. So these are all the mobile specific features which we need to enable and consider. And then finally you have to deploy, test, and then go live. So these are all the mobile specific. So like this, we have HANA to, for example, Neo HANA to HANA Cloud, Neo HANA to even CF HANA. So now it is HANA Cloud. So mostly converting Neo HANA to HANA Cloud is one strategy, and even data migrations. So data services aspect is one strategy, and then we have Java application is one strategy. So cloud SDK services are one strategy. So there are multiple approaches are there when it comes to understanding the scenario which we would like to consider as part of migration. Okay, so yeah.
Thank you, Prasad. So we would want to take this one particular question before moving on to the next segment, if you permit me. So this is to do with what will happen if customer navigate to the source tenant URL after the source tenant has been suspended.
Yeah,
Prasad?
question to me. Yeah, sorry. The question to me, right? Yeah. So what will happen if customers navigate to the source tenant URL after the source tenant.
Yes, has been suspended.
Yeah, see, the point is customers will not be able to access the source tenant URL. Yeah, so once it is suspended, it will be automatically redirected to the target. But for that, again, domain service need to be enabled in the BTP for certain time. So for customer-led scenarios, or it will be valid for 20 days, and sorry, for SAP, and for SAP it is 30 days. So the migration, the earlier, I mean, source tenant will be there for us, but after certain time, so either it has to be moved, or either it has to be redirected during the time period. After that, it will be suspended. You will no longer able to access the source.
Okay, and a follow-up question that I see is, can the source tenant still be used while it is being migrated?
Yes, in short.
Yes. So basically what happens, the source tenant on Neo, generally SAP will not hold it. I mean, generally it will not be blocked during the migration, but the service availability, it will be there, for any usage. But any changes, for example, happened in the new environment, that is source tenant, those cannot be migrated. So that is the one of the reason. I mean, one of the things customers need to keep in mind. So, but in short, yes, source tenant still be used while it's going, being migrated. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Prasad, for taking that up. Another question that I see is, what reconfiguration steps will be required by the customer as part of the migration?
Yeah, as this depends on the service to the application to application. Generally, these comes under post migration activities. So once we do the migration, or while doing the migration, couple of certain things we have to bifurcate as pre-checks and while migration and after migration. So, for example, customer might be using a custom IDP, for example. So that need to be reconfigured. And if customer wanted to, couple of live connections would be there where they need to go with the re-entering the credentials, or they need to reconfigure the OAuth clients. So that is also there. And again, reconfiguration, that will definitely impact on the URL change also. So because the endpoints are going to be changed when it comes to integration scenarios, or even mobile services aspect, the backend still remains, but the reconfiguration within the application we need to consider. So there are multiple factors we need to consider application to application. So these are the key areas, like security aspect that need to be done, and then a couple of reconfigurations which may impact after URL change. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Prasad, for answering that. I would certainly request our audience to keep asking these interesting questions to us. We can certainly move ahead with our presentation.
Yes. Yeah. So these are the challenges what we observed based on our experiences. Like generally. Customers, they are not familiar with the multi-cloud environment, and they also confuses like which service need to be used. For example, I'll give one example. In Neo environment, we have OData provisioning, so that you no need to use gateway system, and then the OData provisioning service within the Neo will enable you to use the backend OData service configurations through destinations, of course. But when it comes to CF, you don't have OData service. Now, if customer wanted to migrate, so they need to think about, if the service is not there, how I can handle it. Now, SAP, since CF, SAP, came up with multiple scenarios, and now they are doing research and subsequently changing their strategy. So for OData service, I'm just taking one example, and they came up with serverless runtime you have to use. And after that, now they are saying you have to use integration suite of CF. So which is having the inbuilt OData REST adapters, which will enable you to access OData. So these are all the confusing things where you don't have direct answers from different blogs or different nodes, where you may need to reach out to SAP for getting some kind of clarifications, or partners like YASH or any other. So they need to get connected with their SMEs and then get the results. So that's where this is one of the challenge we observed. Most of the customers, they don't know what are all the services being offered as part of a Neo to CF. Even I could take one more example, like document services, document management service. Now it is bifurcated as a different materials and also different services, like document management service integration option, document management service application option. So the customers now definitely will get confused. Like, I have one service, but in CF I could see two services. What exactly, which service I need to consider? So these are all the confusions would be there. So that requires the experts help in terms of identifying the right services. And then support for HANA 1.0 and Neo environment will end soon. So in the sense, like, see, the HANA is where now customer may wanted to go with Neo, but subsequently he don't want to migrate Neo to CF. But ultimately HANA 1.0 is going to be end soon. So this is where customers now will get confused. SAP in one way saying no retirement to Neo, but the subsequent services availability is a question mark, and also underlying databases. So that's where this is also one of the factor customers may need to choose the migration path for availing the latest features of subsidiary services. And again, not consuming latest multi-cloud offerings. So because since they are in Neo, so they are locked actually. So they cannot have the digital services like artificial intelligence services or document extraction services, OCR services. These are all SAP giving freely for enabling, for example, invoice automation. You no need to purchase document information extraction service within BTP CF. You can simply have the automation tool, and then subsequently you can enable the. So these are all some advanced features which are not there in Neo, and you cannot extend. So that's where the latest multi-cloud offerings are not being consumed by the customer because of the limitation. And lack of modern and cutting-edge tools to improve the overall application lifecycle efficiency. See, because the core, it became completely agile, and also it became with the DevOps enabled scenarios within SAP BTP. So you have services for managing the CI/CD activities. You have services to managing the lot of testing strategies or agile methodology, and moving your source codes to the repositories. So these are all modern cutting edge tools which will enable customers to get the results very shortly, instead of spending more and more time in a waterfall method and keeping the dependency of the services. So all those things are not there within BTP, because BTP CF is having very modern and tools, cutting edge tools compared to Neo. In this case, simple example, Web IDE and Business Application Studio. So like that. So you have, these are all the, couple of challenges we observed, but there are many challenges we could observe, when it comes to customers thinking migrating from Neo to multi-cloud. Yeah. Okay, so this is again our experiences and considerations, what we identified as part of limitations when it comes to migrating from Neo to CF, and also typical challenges and what tools we have used. For example, you have high-level limitations, but these are very limited. You have around 50 plus limitations are there considering service to service. But here, migration aspect, it is not suitable for freestyle sites which are built through cloud portal sites, and then success factor extensions, and again custom tiles need to be merged, and then subsequently dynamic aspect, those will be converted into static. So this is again one of the limitation, but there are some workarounds are there. And again only a couple of roles are going to be converted, where again we may need to maintain the roles manually within the target environment, that is cloud foundry or multi-cloud. And then app type restrictions, of course, couple of services still connected through business services, business server pages, we can call it as BHP, and SAP mobile documents, so SAP news. So these are all some of the apps are available with the legacy environments like NetWeaver world onwards. So those cannot be migrated. And again, we have agentry, which is the backbone of work manager and also the asset manager aspect. So the agentry, mobilizer, and MBO, SMS-based applications migration is also one typical challenge, where you have to keep all the configurations migrated manually. And even OSGA specific, like Java specific authentication modules also, we have to use workarounds to migrate. Those are custom OSGA framework. And as I said, like offline aspect, like if it is unsynchronized, then the migration cannot happen from Neo to CF. And the typical challenges aspect, like so HANA cloud sizing challenges due to multiple HANA instances and XSA applications. So these are all certain consideration which will change from 1.0 to 2.0 and then subsequently HANA cloud. So the synchronization will not be there. And again, HANA XSA apps need to be re-implemented using CAP model, that is using Node.js, I told you. But after to avoid that, we can also use Schema. But Schema adaptability to the customers is very less compared to Cloud Foundry. And then identifying the proper role collections for the exclusively CPI aspect. And then those are getting different roles in the CF multi-cloud environment. And even performance of the JMS and challenges to HANA DB along with the CPI manual integration. So these are all manual migration involvement would be there when it comes to HANA DB with respect to the integration models. So keeping aside the typical challenges and high level, these are all certainly not the showstoppers, but these are all the couple of challenges where SAP also working and releasing the some of the build packs and tools to take over these challenges. And tools aspect, we have in business applications today is IDE through which you can go with UFM migrations using Fury migration tool and the CI migration pack that is available in SAP Note and through some GitHub collections and Postman collections, and then Docker with the CAP specific models. So these are all the tools and typical challenges and high-level limitations, but these are not limited with the slides. All these points we could see a lot, but not the major showstoppers. But these are all the key, showstoppers or challenges we could, highlight here as part of, based on our experience. Yeah. Yeah, so here post-migration impacts in the sense like what exactly once I move or migrate from Neo to CF, where exactly the disruption can happen. Like you can migrate the complete source code, there is no disruption here, and you can migrate users, teams, roles, licenses, and migration of the metadata, because Neo to CF migration is a $0 thing, other than the services specific cost. Otherwise, it's a $0 migration from SAP. And temporary disruption aspect, yeah, as I told, like if you are using third-party IDPs, you have to reconfigure it. And if you are using live connection details, credentials need to be maintained, and you have to auth client credentials need to be reconfigured, and also cloud connector need to be reconfigured, because which will take you to the new endpoints and to the destinations. And then permanent disruption would be you will be getting new URL to access your applications, and then authorization changes will be there. These are all the permanent disruptions where we need to keep in mind.
So, Prasad, I mean, there was a question actually. I mean, that is what you also kind of mentioned. There was a question. Let me read that question for you. Will the customer receive a new CF specific URL? In a way, yes. I mean, that is what I mean. Even there is going to be a change with respect to the new product or the new service that you are actually kind of subscribing for on the CF side. And when you actually either migrate or use the new system or the application that is available on the CF side, yes, definitely there will be a new URL. And and connecting this question back to one of the very first questions, these two are kind of interrelated. What will happen if customers navigate to the source tenant URL after the source tenant has been suspended, right? Kind of these two are interconnected in a way, wherein the source tenant, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you responded correctly, Sridhar. So definitely customers, I mean, they will be receiving the new URL, but yeah, so the source tenant, that is new environment URL, they will not rework in the CF environment. So they will be getting a new specific URL. So for their target, that's where the permanent disruption, we have mentioned that there will be new URLs. So yeah, so and yeah, can we move to the next slide?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to take this, Sridhar?
Yeah, sure. I mean, once again, what all that you heard so far is basically why do we need to migrate from the old SAP proprietary new environment to the multi-cloud based or the cloud foundry based and a modern way of actually kind of developing applications, modern way of working with all the applications and services, and then what SAP is doing, and then trying to align itself with all the other hyperscalers as well. All that we have heard. And then we also have seen some example of scenarios. I mean, how some UI5 HTML5 applications can be migrated, how existing integrations can be migrated, and so on. And then we also discussed about some of the challenges. Now, but I mean, what is going to happen? I mean, what will the value that we see for the customers, I mean, when they actually migrate to the multi-cloud environment? So what we have seen is, I mean, one important point is, I mean, basically their existing neo investments are safeguarded. What does that mean? Is basically nothing but, I mean, if you have purchased some services, let us say, inside neo environment from SAP, and SAP in itself is actually kind of moving those services availability from the underlying neo environment to a cloud foundry environment, they themselves will actually do that migration for us. I mean, so the underlying core service is anyway going to be changed by them. So, and if there is an application that is built around that service, using that service and so on, we will anyway have some work to do. But I mean, the primary important point is, I mean, whatever the purchases that we made from SAP, they are not really completely lost. I mean, our investments are not really lost. The BTP new investments, I mean, can continue to be used in the new CF environment. So, I mean, and then because of the advantage of being able to leverage the modern technologies, it is important to kind of migrate. Anyway, we discussed about that. So another thing is basically the in the earlier neo environment, if I actually refresh your memories, I mean, there was a diagram that Prasad was discussing about how the environment is structured, how multi-cloud environment or the cloud foundry environment is structured, right? So in the neo environment, I mean, there was not a very great deal of transparency in terms of usage of various services, individual services that we might have actually subscribed within the neo environment by org unit, by different people, by users, and so on. It's not well structured from a utilization, usage, utilization, costs, and so on standpoint. But I mean, that entire thing has been restructured, and we would definitely get a better transparency around all that. We can actually see this organization unit in my company is actually using these many services, and this is the cost that is actually happening. Whereas a different org unit in my organization in itself is actually kind of using these services and the cost involved. All that information can be now seen with better transparency. Earlier, it was not possible. This is primarily from a reporting standpoint. And more importantly, I mean, we talked about migration packs, we talked about, I mean, other things, tools, and so on. All of these tools and templates are also being offered for the customers from SAP to, be able to move these applications and custom developments, if any, in the previous environment in a easy, accelerated manner. This was definitely a thing to do. This is definitely a thing to leverage, because I mean that is going to accelerate the tools and templates that are offered by SAP. And then minimize risks to migration projects. So once again, we talked about all this earlier also. We just need to identify all the various dependencies and things like that. All of these are definitely needed. But I mean, even after doing all that, because Neo is kind of, I mean, not getting enhanced by SAP, so it is better to migrate is something that we also seen. And using the migration project, using the projects and the migration analysis that we definitely do, and subsequently using the tools and templates offered by SAP, it is better to actually, migrate to the next one, migrate to the modern underlying environment. So I mean, I'll move on to the next slide. I think it's already a little over time. I'll quickly finish this. We actually were awarded, I mean, as the Hack to Build winner event that was conducted by SAP in July 2022. This slide is available, so you guys can quickly look at it, I mean, at a later stage. And Naveen,
I think yes, yes, Sridhar. So we have already taken, I think, 4 or 5 questions, and I would say due to the time constraint, I think I still see there is one particular question, but we would definitely connect back with you. So for time being, I would want to wrap this up with your permission. So I want to express my gratitude to our expert for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. We definitely are fascinated by what we learned today. For all you folks, please reach out to us at info@yash.com. And before we finish, we are also coming up with the 3rd episode, which is happening on the 10th of January. So where our experts would cover the topic integration scenarios, migration on-premises to cloud, consideration and limitation. So the link which was shared earlier by my colleague, so I would request you to please keep checking on it on the existing webinars which is being done, and also the upcoming webinar which is going to happen in future. With that, I may take leave. Thank you, Sridhar. Thank you, Prasad, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.